let's talk to Cathy Lisa Schneider, professor at the American University in Washington and the author of Police Power and Race Riots, Urban Unrest in Paris and New York. Professor, good to see you. Welcome. Well, you wrote the book. What are these protests about?
Well, they are, largely about police violence, but they're also about the underlying causes of police violence, which is the demonization of a large population, which is young people born in France, but descendant of colonial subjects, largely from North Africa and Africa. Algeria being the most demonized and stigmatized of all of them. And there has been years, I wrote a book about this around the time of the 2005 riots, in which I argued that there has been, no path for justice, that even what provoked the 2005 riots, the police driving three young people between the ages of 15 and 17 into an electric grid and leaving them there to die. There's more to the story, but again, nothing ever happened to the police officers. And since Macron, things have gotten worse. There has been an implication that all of these youth are terrorists. They keep giving police more and more impunity. Police were not allowed previously to fire on fleeing subjects. Now they were allowed to. So recently, in the past year, there's already been 13 young people shot to death because as they were fleeing in cars or in traffic stops. And so these are a population that are French and aren't treated as French. They see themselves as not represented by the state. And worst of all, they are killed with impunity.
Professor, taking all of that on board, I hope you managed to hear our correspondent. He also described an element of what he called delinquency, and he talked about people driving cars into supermarkets. I mean, lots of people are poor and disadvantaged in the world. They don't set fire to buildings and loot shops. I mean, in a sense, hasn't this in some part been hijacked by a load of yobs on social media?
So there's two things. These are not people protesting because they're poor. They're protesting because their police that should protect and serve them are shooting and killing them with impunity. This was a 17-year-old boy. He had done nothing wrong. As your correspondent said, the police lied about it. And then you saw a tape where the police were saying, "I'm going to shoot you in the head," and they did. So that is different. Riots are almost never provoked by poverty, which is ubiquitous. It's provoked largely by acute grievances, such as the unjustified killing of a minority youth. And in the context of riots, you always get opportunistic looting. So yes, there are people who say, police are unable to control the crowds now. This is a good time for me to get mine. So there are people doing that. That is also very usual for a riot. Once a riot begins, it is much more difficult to get it under control. But the provocation was the police killing. The provocation in 2005 were the police killings. This is an issue that young people have been complaining about for decades, and the government has insisted that they have taken these ideas from the Americans, that they're American imports, or that this is a new version of leftist terrorists. They have a number of names they've been calling movement leaders, not meeting with them, not hearing them. So when Macron finally says this was unjustified, it's a little too late.
Professor, we have to leave it there. We're defeated by the clock, but great to get your views, and thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme. Professor Cathy Lisa Schneider at the American University in Washington.